Shalom friends, Aaron here. Gonna show you a couple of things that I've carved recently. Even though if you do watch TV, stop watching TV, you might think that the world is coming to an end. Of course the world is coming to an end at some point, but yeah, not right now. I'm not going to say we should only worry about or be concerned about the things that we can control, because we do need to be concerned about other things. We need to, think about how we're going to respond to the things that are taking place now and that seem to be on the horizon. Like, we need to ponder that. We need to prepare our hearts for it. Have a plan. And, for those of us who are lovers of freedom and don't think that anyone should be telling us what to do, especially some people we have no idea who they are telling us all the different things we need to do to be healthy and safe and save others from ourselves because we're terrible, disease-infested monsters. We got to know where to draw the line in the sand. How far are we willing to go? And if we decide that we're not going that far, how far are we willing to resist? So I'm going to talk some more about resistance, because I think resistance is really, that's what it's about. But anyway, the video's not about all that. So I'm sorry. It's only 2 minutes, so I'll leave it in. I made this spoon some time ago, and I was particularly proud of this spoon. Not because it's incredible, but because I did it without any power tools at all. This one I carved it with a hatchet, getting it roughly to shape, and then even these slots, I used a hand drill to drill my holes, and then very carefully, carved it out with my carving tools. This is made out of cypress. It actually needs some oil. I'll probably oil it up. I've shared on my other videos what this is. This is beeswax, walnut oil, and half and half, which is tung oil and citrus solvent, which really is like an oil, but it's a solvent. It knocks down the tung oil because it's kind of thick. This stuff's getting a little thick, but I've been using it. I try to take care of these spoons and other utensils that I've made because I'd like them to last if possible. This one's got a little split in it. Some of this wood was really dry, probably drier than maybe you should carve with. And I've carved with a lot of woods that I've read in blogs and things that people say, well, that's not a good one, don't use that. But whatever. I use whatever I got, and I experiment with different things. One of the woods that I've said before that I've had a lot of success with, and I have read a number of things in woodworking blogs, people saying don't use oak. I've used both white oak and red oak, and had great results. Not really all that hard to carve, and also, it's harder than some other things, but it's not terrible. Not terrible at all. And they've been very, very durable. So I'm pleased with the results, and if I get some oak that I'm inspired by, I will use it again. But what I wanted to show you with this, I was just oiling it up while I was talking about it, was I actually still have a little crack in it too. It's not really thin. I'm going to try to show you in the light better. But I had a split develop. Let's see if you can see it. This is such terrible lighting. I had a split develop where you see this wedge And there actually still is a little split right there heading toward one of these slots. It hasn't come all the way through though. I was trying to figure out how to fix that because, you know, it curves and, you know, in one way and out in another. It's convex one side, concave the other, and it's not perfectly symmetrical by any means. Do I have any of those little pieces laying around? I gave them all to somebody to play with. So this is cypress. I took a bunch of little pieces of cypress that I just ripped on my table saw. I set it to like the closest I could get it to the guard on my table saw, which is about a 1/16 of an inch. And I just zipped it through and got a bunch of little pieces about this big. And then, well, how many? I'm gonna count them. I used, do I have to count them? I guess I don't. Well, I could count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 little pieces. And I cut this wedge out as straight as I could by hand. And then the wedges were all a little bit different. They weren't exactly the same. And kind of like fit them in there so that they would go down into the point of my little wedge that I made pretty neatly. And then kind of fill up the top. And I have some Tight Bond 3. I'm sure there's better stuff, but this is what I used. And we'll see. It's I've used it for work a lot. They say it's waterproof. Now, you know, have I been able to go back and check everything I ever used to glue this to glue up that's still outside? No, but I've had really good results with it. So, you know, I used a liberal amount of glue on each of these little 18 pieces. And it was, if you can imagine, all these little pieces sticking up out of here. And then I just very carefully with a knife and a chisel that I had just sharpened up, kind of pared it back to where I could start carving it, you know, to the shape of the outside of the spoon, and then get my spoon carving tool and you know, whatever. What do you call this thing? It's got a name, you know, these guys, and just kind of carve it out to match that inside curve. And it worked really well. And now this is a spoon that, since I made it before it got the split, my kids, who do most of the cooking now, my wife did a really good job of teaching them so she can delegate. And our oldest daughter, who's going to be 14, she really likes cooking, and she's as talented as her mother. So that's pretty awesome. Anyway, it's held up really well. And, you know, this doesn't show. Oh my gosh, my lighting is so bad. That's going to make it worse. That's going to make it worse. Can I even get a decent look at it? It's got a cool pattern. And it's holding up really well so far. So, anyway, I saved it for now. Like I said, we made them to use them. I made them to use them. And then, I don't want to keep always talking about this, but it's part of life. And, you know, this stuff that I do with my spoons is also part of life. So, I got some cedar from a friend. And it's a cool story. They just recently got married. They're in their 70s, but they've known each other for a long time. Her house, which is in the city near where I live, had a cedar tree which came down. I think it was lightning before Katrina, and they had saved the logs from the tree, a couple logs. And then this friend of mine who I used to work for, he has a home out in a different state, and before they got married, he'd kind of travel back and forth, and he actually took one of the logs on his car all the way back across a couple states, and then he had a friend mill it up into planks, and it's really beautiful. And then he took a welding class and used leaf springs and stuff to like weld up the legs of this dining table, and made a new dining table for her which is in her house here. Well, was. Now they've both moved out of state. But anyway, he had the cutoffs. He had a name for them, and I should know this, but I don't have a wood. I don't mill wood, mill logs. But the cutoffs, basically, that were left. And I took one because I don't really have a lot of room for a lot of stuff, and I'm trying to get out of here. So going to get out of here. And, I like to collect useful things, but I can't collect everything. So I took one small piece that looked good, and I was going to make something out of it. A bench, something. I don't know what, but as it turns out, it has a ton of these carpenter bee holes, which is thinking carpenter bees, man, they can be a pain in the butt. But this is cool. It's neat, that they can make these almost perfectly round holes. And the other thing was, I could deal with that, and I'm going to show you what I did with the spoon. But it also had termites. I live in the South, and we have Formosans, and they're scary. And he didn't realize it, but they were in there. In fact, when I started cutting the board up, they were in there. They were active. And not not from the ground. They're probably just some swarmers that had started. But the problem is, I had to try to figure out what to do with this, and I had live termites in it, and I could have just killed them in there probably some kind of ways, fumigated it or something. I didn't want to do that. They would have died out eventually if I just left it outside. It never had any moisture, and they could never get to the ground. But I didn't want to risk having the termites around, so I cut off a few pieces, made sure there was no termites in those pieces, and then threw the rest of the wood away, unfortunately. Plus, they had done a pretty extensive job of tunneling, and it's a lot of little tunnels, and for what I wanted to do with it, it was going to be kind of a pain to try to come up with a big piece that was decent. Plus, I realized it had splits. This one's got a good split running right through it. It's got termite holes in it, which from the outside don't look like much, but on some of these pieces, it was pretty extensive inside. And then these carpenter bee tunnels, you think you know where they go, but it turns out they kind of go other places that you can't see, even if you look in there with a flashlight or try to fish something down in there, kind of feel which direction they're going. Anyhow, I had one piece that was mostly like the red heart of the cedar tree. And it was really pretty, but it just had a split in it. And I tried, frankly. I had already started carving it, and I was going to try to make a little bow tie to go in there and hold the split together, and it just didn't work out, and I had to chuck it. I had one more piece that had a decent amount of red in it because it was really pretty, but it had a pretty good holes from the carpenter bees. And so it was similar to this, where it had a hole at the end, and I thought I could see where it all went. And I mixed up some 2-part epoxy. I've used this Loctite. This is pretty good. And then recently I've been using this JB Weld. I like this better, I think. The Loctite's good though. I always keep some of this on hand. Super handy stuff. And so I mixed it up a little bit at a time because it does harden off. It flashes off pretty quick. And I knew that it had to go pretty far down into the piece of wood. It was going to make a spoon out of it. So I wanted to use some of this cedar from this friend of mine. The thing I was going to say was they moved. I might never see them again. I didn't see her because she's afraid of getting sick. And I'm not sick, by the way. And not going to get sick either. And him, no hug, fist bumps. Yeah. I'm not going to say I cried about it because I didn't, but I will say that it really made me sad because they're two people who are special to me, and I didn't even see her. She's so fearful, and my time with him was, it was nice to see him, but very disappointing for saying goodbye, maybe for the last time to a friend. So, but anyway, I still wanted to use some of this cedar that he gave me because it reminds me of both of them, and I had one piece left that I thought I could get a good spoon out of. So I poured my epoxy down in there, down this little, carpenter bee hole, and man, it just kept going. I had to keep mixing up like a couple more little batches more than I thought I was gonna, need. Well, the reason why was it went further than I thought. So first of all, there's the spoon, and I really like it. I like the shape of it. It's pretty big. And we got a big family, so we get big scoops of food, and we got some big eaters. So this thing is massive. And then that's almost as big. I don't know which one's holds more. This one's a little wider. This one's deeper. No way to measure how much with this one holds by, fluid ounces. Well, I guess I could tape the bottom or something. Yeah. Anyway, you can see how many dry beans they hold, actually. So, it has some really pretty red. My lighting is so bad in here, I don't think this is going to do it justice, but it's really pretty. Really pretty. And then the epoxy, so there's the hole I was pouring into right here. And it went all the way down, and I could see this one. You see how it forks off? I could see this one that split this way, and I knew where it went, and then it actually came out the side of the board. I could see that, and that's what I thought all I was filling. But then it also kept straight, but I couldn't see it because the bees will pack leaves in there. And I wish I had a picture of that, because it's so cool. Like, they pack the leaves in there so perfectly, these little cone shaped. It's almost like ice cream cones stacked together inside. It's pretty neat. But it went all the way down, and then literally I carved off about 1/8 of an inch of this where the hole is. When I started making the bowl, that's where the hole ended. He hadn't finished boring his way through, which is cool because I didn't want the bowl of the spoon to have like a lot of epoxy in it. I just want to use the wood. So it's just up here at the end. And then some of the leaves that they pack in there, there's a little bit of that left in there that I thought I dug out. But this is why I couldn't see where that one went. It was pretty hard. And then this is the one I could see that came out the side. And then this one is the one that goes all the way down the handle. It's actually, for a cedar spoon, really heavy because the whole middle of this is epoxy. And thankfully it went all the way through here, even though it had to go by, or here, went all the way through here, even though it had to go by this material here that was blocking the light, these leaves and things. But it's cool because it's like with the different batches of epoxy, and I even used, I think I started off with the Loctite till that was gone, and then I was using the JB Weld, and they hardened up differently. Like the Loctite's clearer and the JB Weld's more white, and then where you've got this debris left from a little bee house in there, and it just looks really neat. And then this is actually kind of part of that hole right there, and the light shines through it. It's pretty neat. And then there was only a little bit of termite damage that I had to put a bit of epoxy in. But anyway, this is my latest spoon. And yeah, kids have been using this one too. And I really like it. I don't like to use epoxy on them, where it's going to come in contact with the food. I don't know if it leaches poisons or not, but, as a rule, I'd like to avoid that. So it's pretty cool that there's all that epoxy in the handle. And it just ended up there. Anyway, that's that. Fixed this guy, which got a split in it, and carved that one. And then I just wanted to show you one other thing before I go for the night. But one other thing that I've done a lot is I made these signs that I'll show them to you. I'll have to turn the camera to show you the last one before I go, but I'm going to pause it and go grab one to show you. Oh, back on. All right, so here's one I made a while ago. I used to build very eclectic furniture, generally not really big stuff, and sell it at an art market. And then sometimes I'd get commissioned to build like dining tables and cabinets and stuff. Really enjoyed it. I'm working on our house right now, and I can't set our garage up like a shop like I had at that time, and I'm just busy with work and trying to get this stuff done. And life, like washing machines breaking and van problems. Anyway, this is all salvaged wood, like antique. Like one thing about New Orleans is there's this beautiful barge wood, and there's like amazing cypress. They use cypress on everything down here back in the day. 5/4, 2.5 inch thick. And then I've had for a long time a bunch of, so this was actually from a shutter, an old New Orleans shutter. And that's what those holes are for. And then there's some old painted siding on here. And that says Autumn Moon. And these are actually the small letters off of license plates. And I've got one that says Garden Sunset that we're keeping. We're keeping this one. And then I've made ones, you know, that were more of like a theme, like biblical themes. And I've done ones for people where I like did their kids' names or things like that. Some custom signs for people with different sayings that they wanted. And then I did things with the, I also used these to make clocks. I'll show you a clock too. Hold on a second. Maybe I'll throw in a couple pictures of things that I've done in the past. Better pictures than these videos are going to be. But anyway, the bigger license plate letters and numbers I've done things with, including making some really big clocks. I made two. One I made and sold at the art market that I was working at, and then another one, clients that I've done a lot of renovations for. They'd seen it and wanted it, but I'd already sold it. So I made one for them. And it was like old corrugated steel, a little rusty. You know, cleaned it up. I spray everything with clear coat. And actually used wood that I found in their house when I was building a bathroom for them. Upstairs in their guest room where there was no bathroom. And yeah, just big license plate numbers. I just bought the clock movements, and it actually keeps really good time. And they're all different colors, and they're pretty cool. And then the ones with the letters, you know, I make signs like that. That one says grow. And this one's really pretty. Like, it's got really, really awesome colors, the green on the wood here. And it's got that old crackled look, you know, and that's not like faux finishing. That's actually what that looked like, this old trim from inside. That was some baseboard. No, this was window casing. Anyway, I used to be able to remember where all of these were from. This is New Jersey, I know that. Like 60s probably. Anyway, I've gotten a lot of license plates from like antique shops. I've actually purchased some on eBay when I was doing a lot of this. Had some people give me some, whatever. So there's some modern ones, and then there's some older ones. I've got some really antique ones that I've done some cool things with. So this is, and I've also made big signs. Like, we have family who has a ministry where they bring kids from the city out to kind of the country so they can experience something other than being in the city. And I made a really big sign for them with their ministry name and a scripture verse. And then I also have a couple scripture verses that we, you know, we adopt for our family. And I've got a couple of really big signs that I made with antique salvage wood. I love this stuff. I love rescuing stuff and reusing things, you know. Because like I've said before, to me it's like it's a reminder of us. You know, we're all sinners and in need of redemption. And, you know, we're basically useless, you know, like we're destined for the dump. And we can be rehabilitated and turned into something really beautiful, which we were intended to be. But I think the, you know, the scars, in a sense, that we accumulate, we carry with us through our human existence. We think healed, we take those with us when we move on. You know, it's not like this part of our life, as short as it is, as vapor as it is no longer part of us. It's part of us, but we're more, and we're healed, and we're redeemed, and we know even as we're known, as Paul says. Anyway, this is a small clock I made with tiny little numbers. You know, like, so when you look on the bottom and it would say like New York or New Jersey or New Orleans or whatever, and then it would have like, I don't know, I came up with all the news. It'd be New Creatures in Christ, maybe. But there's numbers and things on there too, so made this clock. That's some old copper from a school I worked at that was, I was the facility manager over there, and this copper was from one of their giant downspouts, and that was from the 1920s. And then some old galvanized steel from somebody's job I did, and I think that was probably from like the 60s, from a water heater shed. And then all these cool pieces of wood. This is like plaster lath. Some of you know what I'm talking about. And then old pieces of siding and old pieces of cypress. And it's a really good clock. It keeps really good time. And it's, I don't know, it's funky and eclectic and cool, and I like it. And then I've also made signs with all of our kids' names on them and gave them to my parents. I just gave one to my daughter. And then this one, I'm not done with it. It said something else. Like, I didn't like the friend something, but this says treasured friend. I got to put that TRE back up there. And this one I'm going to give to a gift, as a gift to a treasured friend, a very good friend of mine, who, he's a brother in the Lord, and he's, he's one of the few that I still know that I think are really, really wholeheartedly seeking the kingdom in this life. And, I'm way less disheartened. I am disheartened to know so few. But especially because I know there's a good number of people that I know who at a time really seemed to be walking that road and now aren't. But knowing him is more of an encouragement than all of those other people no longer walking the way, as a discouragement. I'm going to show you. Here's another one I did. Let's see if we can see it. This one has special meaning to us. I hope to share that with you soon. I'm going to wait and see what God does. I'm about to take a trip. This one's cool. It's got some antique chain on it with some slotted screws and really neat colors. And this is something very meaningful to us, Red Sea Road. Something along the lines of what we've been praying about. And I'm going to take a trip up. This was supposed to be a carving video. I'm gonna hang up in a second. But I'm going to take a trip to Missouri. We were looking at land in Tennessee, but found a place. One of the things that we prayed about, I'm just going to share this little story. One of the things we prayed about was that when we saw the place, and we were looking at just land with no buildings on it, because I thought I was going to just build everything, but I have the ability, but not the time and energy and to get everything done with my big family. If it was just me, or even just me and my wife and a couple of teenagers, we could live so simply, but we got little ones to take care of now. So we prayed that we would know it, and we got a place that we saw it and we're like, wow, that's just unbelievable. And we just knew it. And it was on the market for a while, and it's off the market, but it wasn't sold. It was just delisted. And I suspect that the family actually owns the land patent. If you haven't looked into that, that's pretty interesting. I don't watch TV. I learned things. So I've learned a lot about land patents, and it's pretty fascinating. And I believe that their family owns a lot of property there, and the parcel that we're looking at is 24 acres. And I'll just tell you a little bit about it. It's a steel-sided and steel-roofed home that was built in 2012. Recently had an addition with 6 small bedrooms added to it, 6 small rooms besides what was already on it. There's solar power, there's a storm shelter, there's a little greenhouse, there's a small orchard that's already been planted, there's been gardening there, there's a stocked pond. And I'll just say this, it's down a number of roads that the Google car doesn't drive. Yeah. And if you're like me, that's real appealing. So, I've tried to contact family members, but I've not found good numbers. And apparently, I would say the matriarch of the family, I think she's passed on in the last couple of years. And I think the family, they definitely tried to sell it for a couple of years and weren't successful. And interestingly enough, it's in a town that is now, I guess you'd say, defunct. It's no longer a town. It's not an incorporated area. Also, if you're like me, is pretty appealing. So I have a couple of jobs that I need to get a lot of work done on. One I need to finish and one I need to get close to finishing. And I've been getting my van, it's old, ready, and I've had some problems to sort out with it. Nothing major, but I've finally sorted all that out, and I'm really grateful. It's running great. Just to take a trip up and see who I can meet, and I'll share that with you when I do it. Anyhow, so the Red Sea Road, that means something to us. I got another one here that says narrow road, and there's a scripture verse there, Matthew 7:14. We're going to give that to some neighbors who lived on our street. They're Catholics. they've been very friendly, and I say that because I don't know how many, I mean, a lot of Catholics that I've met, they never read their Bible. They go to mass and they hear the priest do his reading, and they're hardly ever in their scriptures. But they moved still in the neighborhood, bought a house. They were renting here, and we're gonna go over with some baked goods, healthy baked goods that the kids make, and with a sign as a housewarming. So anyway, that's some of the stuff I do. And hey, if you're one of the 44 people who subscribe as of now, which goes up and down sometimes, I lose people. And you have any interest in any of these? I've got blanks. They had some of them had. I had one point made for a Christmas farmer art market. I don't know, a couple hundred of these. Sold a lot of them. Gave a bunch away as gifts. But I still had some left, and some of them that I still find meaning in we're keeping. And then there's others that I kept the plaques, and I have lots of big letters and small letters and numbers. And maybe we could work something out. I have made some of these and shipped them, and I'm still willing to do that. So if anybody has any interest, I'd be happy to send you pictures, and the email's on the channel info of the signs that I have, and if you agreed to something, I could kind of lay it out, and you could decide if you want me to finish putting it together and ship it out to you. Still have a few left. And heck, if I don't sell them, I'll make gifts, and I'll make signs to put up in our new home when we cross our Red Sea Road. Anyway, let life go on. Be prepared as much as you can, but don't be consumed by what's going on, because you're going to miss what's close. Shalom, friends. Until next time.